This content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill no
Wait a
one.
second.
Oh, no.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! You're watching SeptumSin vs. the World. I'm SeptumSin, and we are on part 5 of our video game stroll. We've had some fun titles, and of course, we're going to have a few fun ones. We're going to catch up to our Switch library and finish out our PS1 library today. So, a couple of catch-ups. I ended up getting Dragon Quest XI. This is the Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. Now, from what I've heard, this is the Definitive Edition. I've heard that graphically it's not. It's only like a hair below the other releases. But this has a heck of a lot more content. A 16-bit mode where you can play the game like old school Dragon Warrior. And of course they have the current mode. So it's pretty cool. I really want to get into it. I want to try and beat the other games first. I finished the first 2. I mean, technically I've beaten a few more of them over the years, but I'm going to try and rebeat them. I'm working on 3 slowly. I'm going to get there. Of course, there is the Megaman Zero ZX Legacy Collection. Now, this one rounds out and kind of finishes my little Mega Man collections because I have all of them on the Switch. I have the regular Mega Man collection, has all those games, the X collection, and this is the kind of Zero collections. I've never played any of these games, but I am curious about the games. Most definitely. Mega Man is some fun stuff. I really enjoyed Mega Man when I was young, playing on the Nintendo, on the Super Nintendo, and I'll be curious about that. And of course I have Mega Man 11, so I think I've got almost every Mega Man game except for like the weird RPGs now, because I have Legends and Legends 2 digitally. And I think I have Legends physically. You might have to go back and check because I can't remember off the top of my head. So I went ahead and I got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which they did some up-resing in the graphics. I no longer have to play it portably. I don't have a Wii anymore, so I can't play the original, even though I did have a copy. So now I can play this. And of course I also have this one, which the physical is out of print, which is the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country, which is the prequel to the second game. So I can play these 2 and the second game on the Switch and play the whole series. So, now back to our regularly scheduled program. Well, we talked about Parasite Eve at the last one, and now we've got Parasite Eve 2. Now, Parasite Eve 2 was kind of a departure for the series. I mean, well, there's only one other game in the series. It decided it was going to be more like Resident Evil. As you can see, I have the manual right here, which is something that we don't have. It has a very disturbing transformation scene in one section of this. It has an interesting story that kind of goes off the rails, but don't let it fool you. It's actually a fun game. It's an action RPG. The graphics are better than the other one, but I like the older game system better. I think that you could do something with that. I think that they could remake this in the Final Fantasy VII remake engine. They could remake both of these and just have them as one game in that engine. I think they'd be fine. Actually, this is one of the few times I think this would work well, because essentially in the first engine you're running around until your gauge fills up, so this wouldn't be much different. I think that what they should do is just have it fill up instead of having to keep attacking to fill it up, though. So then we have the one people always think of Soul Calibur as its standalone series, but it started as a game called Soul Blade. Now Soul Blade, if you've played any of these, you know what it's like. It's a weapons-based fighter. I mean, you can see not much artwork in it, but this is the greatest hits copy, but it's worthwhile. You could unlock different weapons which had different stats available to them. You can see advertising some of the other ones. It's a really good 3D fighter. We used to have tournaments in college all the time. It was really cool. This is one of the better PS1 fighting games that they released out there. So another one that I have beaten, and I have not been willing to get rid of, is Star Ocean till the end. I mean, not till the end time. Star Ocean: The Second Story. To me, one of the best Star Ocean games. The story is fun. There's a lot of cool characters. For those not familiar with Star Ocean, it's very similar to the Tales series as far as the way that the fighting goes. You guys kind of go in a lineup and they do sort of an action RPG fighting style. I mean, you have like individual battles, but that's how they run. It's been a long time since I've played this, but I loved this game. This was really good. Has a sort of a fantasy sci-fi feel to it. Back when Enix was Enix and Squaresoft was Squaresoft, and Squaresoft hadn't gobbled it up like a giant RPG Pac-Man. Now this one's a pretty valuable one today, and that is Tsui Codon 2. Probably the best game in the series. I used to have the first one, but I ended up selling it, kicking myself for it. I like having this. I mean, I have it digitally, but I like having it on backup physically, because I have a PlayStation 2 and I have a PlayStation 3 set up, so if I want to play this from the disc, I actually can. So like, let's say digital gets wiped out and I don't have a working hard drive for it, I just fire up my PS2, stick this game in, I'm good to go. It's probably one of the best RPGs out there. You can recruit up to 108 members. Many of them actually will fight with you, even the useless ones. And the story is very interesting. It's a kind of a war story. So it's a good mix of tactics and RPG mechanics. So then there is, we were talking about the Tales, the second Tales game, because I think Tales of Fantasia was the first, and that is Tales of Destiny. This is the one that introduced me to the Tales series. It was only a one-disc game. That was kind of odd that it had like this. I think it was for the thick manual. I always liked how they did the thick ones for the one-disc games, because you'll see they have a little PlayStation logo there instead of a disc thing. So you can see how they got the people lined up like that. Let me see if they actually have a battle sequence. But I really did enjoy it. I mean, you can't really see these, but it's just a fun action RPG. She was one of my favorite characters in the game. I don't remember much about her, but I do remember that I really liked the character. Maybe it was the glasses. Finally, Xenogears. Before Xenoblade, before Xenosaga, there was Xenogears. This game is all about potential. This part of the game was spectacular. The combat system, you had these big mechs you could get into, and they had their own combat system. It was just really cool, and it combined platforming elements. The story notes were a little bit out there, but that's a Squaresoft game for you. And then I feel like they ran out of money for this section. Because instead of exploring the world, you basically they said, okay, we're just going to read the story to you, and then you're going to fight a few battles, and we're going to read the story to you, and we're going to fight a few battles, and then you're going to go fight the end boss. If they had more money, and they made this second part as good as the first part, this would probably be my favorite RPG of all time. They also need to fix the last battle. That last battle was hard as heck because you had to fight it in your mechs, which are gears, but your gears could only get so powerful. They hit their max way early, and at their max, it was still one of the hardest battles that you could fight in the game. It was a truly nasty final boss. It took me days to beat that final boss. But I did it. So, here's something, Squaresoft, even though I doubt you're listening. Take this game, remake this game, reutilize a lot of the stuff that you had, because I think the combat mechanics could be smoothed out into that turn-based action style. You can continue to smooth it out, but then have the whole story presented correctly. I think you would have yourself quite the awesome game. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. This was our 5th part. Of course, if you've enjoyed that, hit that like button. Of course, subscribe and share if you want more of this content. And we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.